Hey everyone, it's Sean. I'm at Bruce. It's Sunday, so it's story time. So today we have a really special book that was sent to me by my friend Adrian. And Adrian used to work here, and she used to do sea turtle rescues and do lots of kind of cool ocean stuff. And now she's a teacher. And she sent me this book called If Sharks Disappeared by Lily Williams. So before we get started on this book, I kind of want to talk about saltwater in oceans and even some freshwater systems. So you see this great saltwater tank behind me, and if you've come to Bruce before, you've seen all kinds of saltwater and freshwater tanks. And those tanks take a lot of upkeep. That's because they're part of a balanced system. We have to check the salinity in these tanks, we have to check the nitrogen, we have to check the phosphorus, we have to check the copper. The water has to be a certain temperature. You can see it's flowing up here. There's these things called power heads that push the water around, so it has to be a certain flow. The light has to be a certain radiance. There's special types of lights that go over them to help the corals grow. And within inside this tank, there's tons of microscopic organisms that keep this tank balanced. And as long as this tank is balanced, it can not only live, it can thrive. And that's how we look at oceans and freshwater systems. They have a very, very delicate balance. There's all these things that offset them. And if one thing starts to go out of balance, then the whole system goes out of whack. You kind of have to think of it as like a watch, and if like one tiny little piece of the watch breaks or starts to go off, the watch doesn't keep time anymore. It starts to go too fast, or it goes too slow, or it breaks altogether. And the ecosystem, especially oceans, are that exact same way. If they're not kept in balance, if one thing goes out of whack, then it kind of throws everything off. So because of that, we have this great book called If Sharks Disappeared that explain a little bit more in detail what I just talked about, but it's specifically focused on sharks. So it's something to think about the next time you're looking at a lake here in Michigan, or a pond, or if you live on the coast and you get the chance to be at an ocean, and think about all the hundreds of thousands to millions of organisms and more that help make that system balanced and make it work. And we're part of that system. And sometimes we throw that system out of balance, so we have to do things to try to make sure that we're making it healthy. We have to do things like recycle, and we have to make sure that things are going to proper waste disposals. We can't just be throwing garbage out into the ocean or dumping waste out in it. And if we do that, we can cause major problems. So with that, we will read If Sharks Disappeared by Lily Williams. And there's a couple extra things she put in here that kind of explain about our conservation note. And speaking of conservation, you'll notice I'm wearing my evac shirt again and my Save What You Love face mask. And this is part of the evac Foundation, the Albaje Amphibian Conservation Center in Panama. And they're helping to save endangered frogs, and even frogs that are extinct in the wild. They have them in captivity and they want to re-release them out in the wild. And part of what they do is about ecology and having a balanced system and saving the environment. So you can look them up on Instagram, you can look them up on Facebook and figure out how to help. Every time you come to Bruce and you round up your change, like say your purchases come to $15.55, you can round up to $16, and all that change goes towards them and helps them out. And there's also many conservations that we've worked with to help with ocean life as well. So if you come in and talk to our saltwater and freshwater departments, they can talk to you about the type of conservation we do, including propagating corals that we send down to Florida to help rebuild their reef. So we're not just a pet store, we help with conservation as well. So on that, I could talk about conservation for hours because that's what most of my degree fields are in. So, but I will start the story because that's why you're watching. You want to watch story time. So Lily wrote this at the beginning of her book. A healthy ocean is home to many different kinds of animals. They can be big like a whale, tiny like a shrimp, or even scary like a shark. Although sharks can be scary, we need them to keep the oceans healthy. Unfortunately, because of overfishing, many shark species are in danger of extinction, and that could cause big problems in the oceans and even on land. What would happen if sharks disappeared completely? Her book is going to tell us what would happen. This is a healthy ocean. It's a balanced environment where many different animals and plants thrive. The ocean is home to a lot of creatures, big, small, slimy, cute, and scary. Sharks have helped our oceans balance. Sharks have helped keep our oceans balanced for about 450 million years. Over that time, they've evolved into more than 400 different species that exist today. Sharks are apex predators, which means they're at the top of the food chain in their ecosystem, the ocean. Losing an apex predator species can cause devastating effects on an environment. Today, roughly between 1/4 and 1/3 of shark species are vulnerable to extinction because of overfishing. What could happen if this continues and sharks disappear altogether? If sharks disappeared, what would happen if sharks disappeared? The ocean would no longer be balanced. Although different species have different diets, most sharks typically eat sick, slow, or weak prey, leaving the healthy animals reproduce. If sharks disappeared, the population of seals, sea lions, and other pinnipeds would potentially explode. At higher populations, they would eat more fish, and eventually, once there aren't any fish left, they'd starve and die out as well. If sharks and pinnipeds disappeared, plankton, which is what many fish that are lower on the food chain eat, could quickly grow out of control. That could make the ocean a thick sludge. Nothing could survive in this water. The ocean became unlivable. Well, many species of land animals that rely on the ocean for food, such as seabirds and polar bears, could starve out and die out. The loss of those animals could cause still more species farther inland to die out. This pattern of cause and effect, called trophic cascade, could spread like a wave across countries and continents until animals around the globe were affected, from bees to birds to bears, and eventually to us. All species depend on one another to survive by keeping our planet's ecosystems in balance. And luckily today, sharks still exist. Sharks inhabit all the oceans on the earth. If we remember that we are all connected and if we work together, sharks and our whole planet as we know it will thrive. And maybe we'll see that once what seemed so scary isn't so scary after all. So in this book, she keeps a glossary of all those cool scientific terms that we went over, like apex predator and trophic cascade. So if you pick this book up, you can learn about a lot of these terms at the end of it. And she also wrote this thing called Sharks Are in Trouble. So I'm going to read the very end. And normally I don't read these types of things in the books, but this is very important. An estimated 100 million sharks are killed every year. 100 million. Most of them are used to make shark fin soup, a Chinese-Vietnamese delicacy. Though shark fins have no taste or nutritional value, they can be sold for a lot of money. So many sharks are killed that roughly 1/3 of species are now under threat of extinction. Sharks are also killed for their teeth, jaws, livers, skin, and cartilage. These parts are used in dietary supplements, skincare products, cosmetics, and leather goods. Non-selective fishing methods like netting, trawling, that's where a boat drags a net through the water along the ocean floor, and long lining, that's where one main fishing line dangles many smaller lines with hooks, also kill large numbers of sharks. Sometimes people even kill sharks out of fear. thinking that having fewer of them in the oceans will keep people safer in the water. The truth is, people are more likely to be killed by a disease-carrying mosquito, a cow, a vending machine, a horse, a bee sting, or falling off their bed than they are to be killed by a shark. So how can you help save sharks? You can help save sharks by being a conscious consumer. Don't buy products containing shark in any form, such as shark fin soup, shark squalene, which is their liver oil, or shark teeth, jaws, or cartilage. Buy only fish that were caught sustainably, which means that not too many fish were caught at one time or in a way that harmed the ocean environment. To avoid the others, check the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch List or its phone app, available at the App Store and Google Play. Stay up to date on news about sharks and how the laws are being passed. Tell your government representatives you want better protection of sharks and marine life. Let them know you want more regulation of bycatch and fishing practices for the fishing industry. Travel to or learn more about the places that support shark education, like South Africa, Australia's Great Barrier Reef, and the Baie Ternay Marine National Park and Seychelles. Support causes that support sharks. Get involved with local and global shark advocacy programs or start one of your own. Tell your friends about the plight of sharks and encourage them to make sustainable change in their lives. And create shark art. So, Proust does its own bit. We don't pull from the wild if we absolutely don't have to. We try to propagate everything that we can here in the store, and that includes our coral and our fish. We try to buy from sustainable places. We donate to conservation efforts, and we encourage people to do the same. Proust has been nationally recognized for its efforts in saltwater propagation. We do everything we can to educate the public. We've even spoken at universities and all kinds of clubs around the United States about what it is to keep sustainable product. And so I don't use the term products in a negative sense. It's just we're a pet store, we sell animals, and that's part of what we do. But when we look at animals, we look at them as family members. If you're going to send these anemones and these corals and these fish home, they're a family member. And those family members have to be comfortable, and you have to create a comfortable environment for them. And they have to have a comfortable environment if they're going to be left out in the wild as well. So everybody can do their part to help out. And at very end, it said create shark art. I want each of you watching this to create some shark art, and then you can send it to the Proust Pets Facebook page, and we will post up your shark art. So, I hope you learned something about what would happen if sharks disappeared. I hope you learned something about conservation. It's something I'm very passionate about. It's what all my degree fields are in, and it's why I do the job that I do in helping to educate all of you. So, I hope you have a good night.